Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views in News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the inauguration of the 46th US President, Mr. Joe Biden, who took charge yesterday and now he is the man running the show. The interesting part was that as everybody expected that this man is going to reverse so many decisions taken earlier by the former President Donald Trump. And this is exactly what happened. So just to go through some of the executive orders, let me read them out. Regarding coronavirus, says launches a 100 days masking challenge, asking Americans to wear masks for 100 days, requires masks and physical distancing in federal buildings, on federal lands and by government contractors, and urges states and local governments to do the same. Furthermore, regarding coronavirus, says stops the United States withdrawal from the World Health Organization, with Dr. Anthony Fauci becoming the head of the delegation to the WHO. Again, regarding coronavirus, creates the position of COVID-19 response coordinator, reporting directly to Biden and managing efforts to produce and distribute vaccines and medical equipment. Now, regarding economy, that's a big challenge as well, extends the existing nationwide moratorium on evictions and foreclosures until at least March 31st. Again, regarding economy, extends the existing pause on student loan payments and interest for Americans with federal student loans until at least September 30th. Regarding environment, rejoins Paris Climate Accord, a process that will take 30 days. Earlier, withdrawn was seen by Donald Trump. Regarding environment, again, cancels the Keystone XL pipeline and directs agencies to review and reverse more than 100 Trump actions on the environment. Regarding equity, rescinds the Trump administration's 1776 commission, directs agencies to review their actions to ensure racial equity. Again, regarding equity, prevents workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Census requires non-citizens to be included in the census and apportionment of the congressional representatives. Immigration fortifies DACA after Trump's efforts to undo protections for undocumented people brought into the country as children. Immigration reverses the Trump administration's restrictions on U.S. entry for passport holders from 7 Muslim majority countries. Immigration undoes Trump's expansion of immigration enforcement within the United States. Again, regarding immigration, halts construction of the border wall by terminating the national emergency declaration used to fund it. Again, regarding immigration, extends deferrals of deportation and work authorizations for Libyans with a safe haven in the United States until June 30th, 2022. Ethics requires executive branch appointees to sign an ethics pledge barring them from acting in personal interest and requiring them to uphold the independence of the Department of Justice. Regarding regulation, directs OMB director to develop recommendations to modernize regulatory preview and undoes Trump's regulatory approval process. Well, we have got some tweets also. We'll be sharing them with you, and the first one is from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mr. Imran Khan, says, I congratulate President Joe Biden on his inauguration. Look forward to working with both in building a stronger Pak-US relationship through a trade and economic engagement, countering climate change, improving public health, combating corruption and promoting peace in region and beyond. President Biden, it says, after taking the oath of the office this afternoon, I got right to work taking action to control the pandemic, provide economic relief, tackle climate change and advance racial equity. President of the EU Commission says, Ursula von der Leyen, says that the United States is back and Europe stands ready to reconnect with an old and trusted partner, to breathe new life into our cherished alliance. I look forward to working together with Mr. Joe Biden. And President of France, Mr. Macron, says to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, best wishes on the most significant day for the American people. We are together. We will be stronger to face the challenges of our time, stronger to build our future, stronger to protect our planet. Welcome back to the Paris Agreement. Now, this was stated by the President of France, Mr. Macron. Since the President has taken so many decisions regarding this particular issue, he's reversed many. Coronavirus was one of the major issues which became a reason for Donald Trump to lose the election. Economy was another, and so many other decisions which were considered very inappropriate at that time, but later on we got to know that now they will be reversed, and they have been reversed. A lot more still is to come. But to talk about this, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us on my right in our studio Dr. Nazir Mahmood Saab. He is a columnist, a senior journalist. Thank you very much, Nazir bhai, for your presence. And we have with us from Washington, D.C., Syed Muhammad Ali, expert on foreign affairs. Ali, thank you very much for taking out your time and talking to PTV World. And we'll be also talking to Mr. Zamir Akram, former ambassador, on the telephone. But let me put the first question to you, sir. First of all, now, it seems that the global leaders, they're pretty happy that Mr. Joe Biden has won the election, and he has been inaugurated as the 46th president. Now, the best part is that whether you talk about the relationship with France, that was in a turmoil, Germany, UK, so many other countries, China for that matter, Russia, I mean, you name it, and the problem existed. But this man seems to be doing the right job at the right time, taking so many executive decisions, whether you talk about the immigration, you talk about the Paris Environment Club, or you talk about the economy or coronavirus for that matter. Your take, sir?
I think it's a very positive development, not only in American politics, but in international politics. And that's why most of the world leaders have been very expressive of their jubilation on Biden's win. So, having said that, this is a positive step. We also have to be a bit cautious. If we look at the 10 executive orders, all of them are very good. Domestically, as you just mentioned, health related, COVID related, rejoining WHO, climate, these are mostly related with their own domestic matters. Internationally speaking, executive order about removing ban on 7 Muslim majority countries, that is a very positive step, I must say, and it should be welcomed. Then easing restrictions on or crackdown on immigrants in America, that is also a positive step. But looking at the broader picture, what is happening, Joe Biden leading America to re-embrace old friends like NATO, European Union, Germany, France. So, Democratic Party will be re-embracing old friends. But why I am saying that we need to be cautious about concluding or expecting major or drastic changes is about what they consider as their perpetual enemies as Russia and China. So, if you look at the statements of nominated Defense Secretary and Foreign Secretary in Senate when they appeared, so both of them were very clear and vocal about Russia and China. And in fact, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, he very clearly mentioned that China remains a threat, China is menacing, and again he tried to raise human rights issue in China, and the same thing about Russia also. Turkey buying
S-400
systems from Russia. So, regarding their old friends, the policy will change and they will re-embrace. But regarding old enemies, I don't see any major positive step towards China and towards Russia. Regarding Iran, there is a slightly positive signal.
Nothing
from
has
Blinken.
been mentioned in these regarding Iran, sir.
Not in the executive orders, but I think when we discuss their foreign policy, we must once again listen to or read the transcript of these two gentlemen, Foreign Secretary and Defense Secretary, when they appeared in the Senate and what they said. This is very informative and educative for us where American foreign policy will be going. And in Pakistan also, there were questions when you talk about Pakistan, I will mention that. But for the time being, Blinken clearly mentioned that this agreement with Iran, which was cancelled or America withdrew from that JCPOA agreement, he said that it was a positive agreement and it was running in the positive direction. It was delivering positive results, which is I think a very good statement coming from new American Secretary of State regarding Iran. So I see a mild policy, slightly mild policy towards Iran, but with China and with Russia, I think their aggressive posture will continue. So briefly speaking, that's
a lot will change, but a lot is going to remain the same also, because when it comes to the foreign policy, I would say that certain things that has been there, whether you see the government of the Republicans or the Democrats, more or less the ideology is the same. Let me also bring in our guest from Washington DC, Syed Muhammad Ali. Syed Saab, tell us about the kind of environment which prevails in the United States of America. We were just all glued to the television screens, and a lot seems to be very different. I mean, for example, the tone of CNN is totally 180 degrees opposite now. Instead of maligning and going after the former president, now everybody is praising Joe Biden. Everybody seems happy. Everybody seems to be, on the same page regarding this current appointment. Let's start off from the media, sir.
That's right. In the sense of jubilation, I mean, even sort of the mainstream. Besides the media, I mean, even the entertainment industry. I mean, there was this lineup of rock stars and sort of poets and sort of Tom Hanks and Bon Jovi and all these performers lining up and a lot of sort of nostalgia about sort of American values, and to change that to get another flavor, I did also put on yesterday Fox News, and that was quite a parallel universe, if you will. Right, where they were sort of picking up on these snippets and talking and criticizing how CNN and sort of all these other mainstream channels, I mean, how they're sort of falling all over themselves in the sense of relief, and then sort of casting doubt on how this administration could potentially sort of start admonishing a lot of people who sort of believed in the America First ideology, and perhaps now start labeling them as sort of white supremacists. So sort of pandering to this fear. So there is while there is this sort of sense of relief in the mainstream media, and I mean even NPR this morning, and a lot of the late night shows have sort of you see the change in tone immediately. But there is this underbelly also of the media, a powerful right-wing media, which is viewing these developments with a lot of disgruntlement.
So primarily you believe that this tussle is going to go on now, or things will settle down soon?
Well, I mean, the president has been calling for sort of unity, and but there is this polarization within this sort of disgruntlement, this idea of internal domestic unrest, and how, I mean, if one looks at sort of violence within the U.S., I mean, there have been some post 9/11 instances of violences, but usually it's gun violence. Right, and behind then gun violence, there's there's this whole issue of gun control in America, with the NRA, having the kind of power that it has enjoyed, particularly with the Republic.
All right, all right. We'll just take a short break here. After the break, we'll return and we'll continue our discussion. Welcome back after the break. Now, Nazir Saab, couple of points. Now, first one is regarding the Pak-Afghan, because if you look at the relationship between Pakistan and the United States of America, it has always been seen through the lens of Afghanistan. Lately, no more strategic partners, no more transactional partners. Biden was very clear about it, if you remember. He said, I mean, there is no concept of having a transactional partnership. What is that supposed to mean? Now, so the future of Afghan peace process. Where do you see this heading, sir? Do you think this is going to be now at the back burner, or you believe that this is going to be the priority? Because nothing has been discussed regarding this so far.
Again, I would refer to the two gentlemen I referred earlier, because Biden's executive orders don't talk about Afghanistan or Pakistan. They are pretty much clear about their own domestic politics or about climate and all. But if we want to understand what their policy will be regarding Pakistan and Afghanistan, we need to look at what they said in the Senate. Both of them, in one of the questions when Senate asked nominated Defense Secretary, how will you deal with Pakistan? And he clearly mentioned that Pakistan is a sovereign country.
Correct.
Number one, that was a positive thing. Second thing, he said that we will try to continue the Afghan peace process. And Tony Blinken, he was also asked in Senate about his policy, what his policy will be regarding Afghanistan and Pakistan, and he said a couple of things. Number one, he said that we will abide by the troop withdrawal announced by Trump. He clearly mentioned that, number one. Number two, he said that we will
Was this mentioned by General Lloyd Austin?
Okay,
okay,
Blinken.
okay. All right.
Blinken.
All right.
And secondly, Blinken said that we will continue with the working with Pakistan for the peace process and negotiating with Taliban. So that means that there is a positive step towards that. So I don't see any major or drastic change of policy. What Trump followed, I think the current new administration will also continue in that, because they never said anything, neither the Defense Secretary.
So that means that they believe that the withdrawal should take place, but stepwise and looking at the overall situation inside Afghanistan.
And one more thing, Blinken said that when Senate asked him if Taliban come back to power or they share power, what will you do? So he said that we will try to make sure that even if Afghan Taliban join the government, there should be a guarantee protecting women's rights, so that there is no targeting of women in Afghanistan. So that much he said very clearly.
Because the current government really believes in the human rights. So we have been joined in by Ambassador Zamir Akram Saab. Assalamu alaikum ji.
Ji, walaikum salam.
Ambassador, thank you so much for taking out your time and talking to us. Now, first of all, sir, considering your experience, let me put this question to you, sir, regarding the Pakistan-US relationship. Joe Biden has always been somebody who respected Pakistan, and he had that feeling for us as well. His visit to Pakistan while he was the vice president, and then talking about the human rights in Kashmir, or for that matter, sir, considering Pakistan as an ally, not on the basis of the transsectional relationship. How do you see the next 4 years, sir, regarding Pakistan and USA? Because we have also learned that the military corporation is going to continue. The officers who used to go to United States of America for training, that is going to continue at some stage. I'll see, we will get to know about that also. But generally speaking, sir, do you think the relationship between these two countries will improve in the coming years?
My view is that personalities make some marginal contribution to a change, maybe of nuance or detail. But countries, including the United States, all countries follow their foreign policies based on their national interests. And these are continuum. It's a continuum, and that is really going to be the determining factor as to how the U.S. will pursue its relations with Pakistan in the context of its national security. So we should not be talking about friendship or enmity. We should be talking and looking at where there is a convergence and where there is a divergence between the two countries. Now, as the previous speaker correctly mentioned, there is obviously a divergence, there is obviously a convergence between Pakistan and the United States in addressing the situation in Afghanistan and helping to bring about peace in that country. And to that extent, Pakistan-US relations will continue along the trajectory that was actually started by President Trump, because the U.S. finally came to realize that there is no military solution in Afghanistan and accepted Pakistan's suggestions that there needs to be a dialogue. So that, I think, that is a positive step. The other obvious objective would be to continue to cooperate with Pakistan in counterterrorism because there is a continuing threat of Al Qaeda, the ISIS, Daesh threat. So that again will be an area. But what my difficulty is that there is no, so far I have not seen anything from the new administration and its members, anything about developing relations with Pakistan which are important in and of themselves. That these are all reasons that are being given are relating to Afghanistan or other issues. So this is the area that we will need to focus. That we need to build a bilateral relationship with the U.S. You mentioned that there is also a reference to in the U.S. Defense Secretary's statement in the Senate about continuing with this IMET cooperation, this military training cooperation. And this is something that really suits the Americans because it gives them access to our military leaders of the future leaders of our military. How about what are they going to do in terms of Pakistan's security concerns is what really is the important thing for me. And here I think that there is not an open divergence, but certainly an implicit divergence between American and Pakistani interests that has existed during ever since the George Bush administration, and that as a result of the growing rivalry between the United States and China, for which reason the United States has entered into a strategic partnership with India. This strategic partnership has helped India build up its conventional and strategic capabilities, and these capabilities threaten Pakistan as well because any kind of capability can be used against China, it can be used against Pakistan. And unfortunately, the U.S. has not been sensitive to our security concerns, which has led to a destabilization of the security environment in South Asia, particularly between India and Pakistan. So
All right,
that
now,
would
Zabir
be
Akram
an
Sahib, another
area.
point that is about the Indo-Pacific strategy of the United States of America. Do you think that is going to continue in the same way, the way it was planned by Trump also, or you believe that they will also look at Pakistan as an ally and that balance of power would be a priority, or no?
I don't think that would be the case. I think the United States will continue with its policy of targeting and confronting China. And for that reason, this Indo-Pacific strategy in which India is a part of this so-called quadrilateral alliance, this policy is going to continue. If you see the Secretary of State designate Blinken's comments in the Senate, it's very clear what the American Biden administration's thinking is about China. And this is as a result of America's zero-sum approach. The sensible thing for the U.S. to do would be to cooperate with China and with Russia, because these are the three major powers in a new multilateral or a multilateral world. Rather than that, the Americans are seeking domination, confrontation, which is going to be negative not only for South Asia, as I mentioned, but for the entire world. And I think that is going to be a problematic issue for us as well as for other countries. But for us, the second problem arising out of this is not just the India problem. The second problem is that we have very close strategic relations with China.
Correct.
And we need to see whether the Biden administration will continue to pursue the kind of policies that the Trump administration did, opposing projects between Pakistan and China like CPEC. If they do that, then of course there are going to be problems. But if they decide that CPEC does not present a threat to U.S. interests, that would be a good thing, and I think it does not present an interest, any kind of threat to American interests. In fact, the Americans can be a part of CPEC or part of the larger Belt and Road Initiative project of the Chinese government. So we need to see that, but in terms of U.S.-China confrontation, I feel very sure that that will continue.
All right. Thank you so much for your comments, Ambassador Saab. Now, coming to you, sir, since we are running out of time, but I would like to ask you a couple of questions. First of all, sir, the US economy, the current debt is over $27 trillion. The economy is around 20.6 trillion, that's what we believe. Now, looking at that kind of a number, sir, and the kind of engagement they have currently with the Chinese or EU for that matter, and rest of the world in general, do you see that aspect being improved, or you believe that the economy is going to be the biggest challenge for Joe Biden's government?
Well, the economy is going to be a challenge. I mean, in the sense that there's 400,000 people have died, and the economy's sort of, I mean, it's there have been packages to stimulate the economy, and there's another one sort of in the works, which takes its toll. I mean, we're talking about more than $1 trillion more than once. So, I mean, there are those issues, and in comparison to China, the economic sort of situation in the US has been more sluggish and would potentially be so for the foreseeable future. But here, I think the US will also be compelled, while on the one hand, for instance, with China, I mean, they have Blinken has also said that he agrees with Pompeo's assessment regarding the Uyghur situation. But I think on the other hand, I think there's a differentiation to be made between China's Western horizons and the Indo-Pacific arena, where the contestation might continue, because just half an hour before this program, Moeed Yusuf was speaking with Michael Kugelman on the Woodrow Wilson Center. And I think in Pakistan, there is a realization that on the Western horizons of China, Pakistan is uniquely positioned to enable, a kind of a cooperation, if you will, between the US and China, which has an economic benefit, right? In a post-COVID situation, I think the US, this administration, while it will continue, engaging in a great power competition, will perhaps try to be more discerning, or should try to be, or Pakistan should try and convince it to be. And Pakistan is a good conduit for providing that opportunity for the US and China to work together for everyone's economic benefit, vis-a-vis these regional corridors, and not having a zero-sum game towards CPEC.
All right. Now, last quick comment from you, and that is about the tough days ahead. Because I was having a word last night with a very dear friend of mine, Dr. Patrick Calico, based in California, and he was in Bakersfield. So I asked him, how is the situation? Because we used to be together when I was in States, and he said, Faisal, you will not believe that now we whites are scared of the blacks, blacks are scared of the Mexicans, Mexicans are scared of the Muslims. I mean, there is a different, and I said, I can't believe that is happening out there, because that's California. He said, I swear this is what is happening. You can't go out without carrying a gun, since he was a hardcore Republican. Now, this is what the situation is like. Law and order, that is going to be a challenge and a half, because if things have cooled down now, they won't remain the same, because he says that people genuinely believe that this, especially the Republicans, and majority of them, and educated people, they believe that this particular election was stolen.
Oh, I don't think that it was stolen. But coming back to your question about polarization,
the division
and polarization, again, there are two aspects to it. One, I think that is the most devastating impact of Trump presidency on America. His 4 years, though he did not launch any international war, but internally, I think the social fabric, American social fabric, has been torn asunder. So that is the most negative aspect. But looking at the positive side, in American history, or for that matter in other histories also, societies evolve like that. In America, see the triumph of anti-slavery movement, and in the Civil War, and after the Civil War, slavery was abolished. But immediately after that, in the restoration era and all, after 10-15 years, once again there was a backlash by the white supremacists. Ku Klux Klan came into being, and lynching and murdering, 40, 50 years in the beginning of the 20th century, birth of a nation, anti-black, like that, racist, very violent racism was there. But again, America, this is kind of a topsy-turvy, zigzag movement. That's how societies evolve. So I think, though Trump has done tremendous harm, but American society will evolve and get out of it. Look at the selection that Joe Biden made on his inaugural event. The poet, young 22-year-old black American poet who recited that beautiful poem. Now, that is, Joe Biden has sent a signal that blacks have equal opportunities, and this is one of Democratic Party's major points in agenda. So I am hopeful, I am positive that though American society is polarized, I think American society
But
will
there's
get out
a
of it.
huge task ahead for
Yes,
him.
challenging, very challenging, but I am positive and hopeful that Democratic government will produce some positive results.
All right. If I may have a quick 1-minute comment from you, sir, on the same issue.
Agree and okay, I agree. That I mean, there's this need for bandaging. Bandaging is perhaps a light word. I mean, that there is this. There's a serious problem of polarization. But there's also simultaneously the over-securitization of the American state can itself become an issue, because in the long run, with policing and racial profiling, rather than it alleviating problems, I mean, it can further exacerbate them, right? And there is this blue-collar disgruntlement. Even within the Midwest, and a lot of those people have their own disgruntlement, right, which has been co-opted in the past, and there's need to address those structural problems for sure. And just, the use of a security state won't be able to do it alone.
But sir, for your participation. It was a pleasure having you, Dr. Saab. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.